Do you tend to put everyone else above yourself? Are you neglecting your own needs for the needs of others? Are you prioritizing somebody else's life instead of prioritizing your own? Are you choosing to live for somebody else instead of living for what you want? We can self-abandon ourselves in so many ways. We tend not to put ourselves first. We think that it's selfish. We think that we have to do everything for others. But we're actually damaging ourselves even more if we don't put ourselves first. We're putting ourselves on the sidelines of our own life. And you're choosing effectively not to live because you're living for somebody else. My name is Angela Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach. I specialise in healing after narcissistic abuse, and I also offer twin flame and spiritual guidance. Oftentimes we sacrifice ourselves for the needs of others. And this comes from a need to be validated. But it also comes because we're avoiding ourselves and avoiding what we truly want. We're avoiding it because we're afraid of it. We're afraid of the unknown, but we're afraid to live our own lives. We're afraid, I don't even know what we're afraid of anymore, because we dream of something big, but yet we neglected that dream because we're prioritizing something else. We're putting other people before ourselves. And we've been taught, it's selfish to love yourself. It's selfish to have pride in yourself. It's selfish to put yourself first. No. But then we drain ourselves, putting so much into living somebody else's life while neglecting our own. So what are you prioritizing? Are you prioritizing what you actually want? Or are you running around doing things for other people? Are you neglecting to set boundaries in your life? Are you wanting to say no, but always saying yes? When we become people pleasers, and this is it, we become people pleasers because of a fear of abandonment, right? We're afraid for other people to leave us, but we end up leaving ourselves. And that's effectively what it is. And I just, this really bugs me. I used to do this. My biggest wound was my abandonment wound. And I was so afraid that everyone would fucking leave me that I actually abandoned myself. You know what I mean? And it's so important to come back to yourself. And when we're doing so much for others, we drain ourselves. We deplete ourselves because we're not living in alignment with our souls. And oftentimes we give so much to other people, they become codependent on what we do for them. So we're actually damaging their lives as well. Because, if we're doing, say, too much for a parent, that parent is going to neglect to do those things for themselves. Or vice versa, if a parent does too much for a fucking child, the child becomes fucking dumb. I'm sorry. But if you overparent, or if you overparent your parent, you lose common sense. If somebody else is doing your life for you, you forget how to function. I've seen this. I've seen people who've lived at home in their 30s and they effectively become fucking thick. I'm sorry, but they lack common sense. They lack even, I'd say they don't even know how to breathe on their own without going to, Mommy, how do I do this? I don't know how to do this. Will you fucking tie me shoelace for me? I'm 30 years of age, but fuck it, you've done it my whole life. I can't, you lose your brain. I'm it doesn't have to be in a family dynamic. When I was in my toxic relationship, well, both of them, in my 20s, especially my issue narcissistic relationship, I effectively became like a codependent child who forgot she had a brain. Because the narcissist controls, and literally I lost all fucking capabilities of doing anything, I effectively became stupid. So, if we're doing everything for another person, we're actually effectively making them brainless. Because, you're taking away their ability to do themselves. So that's another detriment to this. You're not even just hurting yourself, you're hurting that person. But then it comes to the fact that you do so much for this person that if you do decide to do your own life, if you do decide to prioritize your own needs, they retaliate. You set a boundary and they get angry. And they're like, you're so selfish. After everything I've done for you, oh my God, Jesus. When you set a boundary with a person, and if they retaliate, that means they're sucking your life force energy and they're actually taking every bit of you away from you. They're helping you abandon yourself. But we abandon our own needs in so many other ways as well. If you're overworking, if you're constantly busy, this is you avoiding you as well. You know, you're avoiding your own thoughts, your own needs, your own introspection, your own self-awareness. You know, you're avoiding growth. And that's what, like, this is it. When we abandon ourselves, we actually abandon life. We abandon growth. We abandon evolution. And that's the fact. We just literally, like, it's like we effectively give up living our own lives because we're living somebody else's. And we end up doing it for the wrong people as well. You know, oftentimes when we overgive, people overtake. And that's what they do. And they get so dependent on us doing everything for them that they take us for granted. And that's it. They take us for granted. We're constantly forgiving, we're constantly saying yes, and we're constantly being treated like fucking shit. And that's it. And we're constantly being drained. You know, we're like, you're supposed to live your life for you. But if you're living somebody else's life for them, you're actually sitting on the sidelines of your own life. And you're not even, you know, what are you doing? Like, you're watching and playing the game of somebody else. And your life becomes stagnant and standstill. You know what I mean? There's just no movement. And how do you tend to choose yourself then? You have to start saying no. Like, what do you want? This is your life. You know, why are you neglecting you to prioritize somebody else? And like, as I've said before, like, most of what we do stems from our feeling of unworthiness. Why are we running around after these other people? And this is it, right? Because of our abandonment and rejection wound that has surfaced in childhood, we attract toxic relationships. And because of the trauma due to that, we tend to overgive as a need of validation. We tend to hope that, you know, if we keep giving and giving and giving, that will be the love that we seek. But it doesn't work that way, because you lose yourself completely. You know, and this is funny because, like, you know, because of the toxic relationships, you lost yourself completely. But then you jump right into a family dynamic that's fucked up and codependent as well, because you're people pleasing. You're running around saying yes to everyone else because you're people pleasing. And you're actually effectively losing yourself again, living somebody else's life. That's a fact. Ask yourself, what do you do for you? Or are you spending your days working like a dog and then doing everything for everyone else? When do you get time for yourself? When do you get time on your own? When do you get time to recharge? When do you get time to sit with yourself and figure out what you actually want? You know what I mean? Is this what you want for your life? To run around doing that fucking dog work and then doing somebody else's life in the evenings and the weekends? Prioritizing everything but yourself. You know, there's so many ways where we neglect ourselves, we neglect our feelings, we neglect our emotions, we neglect everything about ourselves because we're not setting the proper boundaries. You know what I mean? And we're afraid to set boundaries. We're like, oh my God, this person needs me. The person is dependent on you. That's not a need. That's an unhealthy dynamic. You know, I'm like, I watched this documentary from years ago, and it's you know, these elderly people in a nursing home, and they were put into this house to fend for themselves. And it was a struggle. They were seized up because they weren't moving. And, you know, starting to fend for themselves again was difficult because they'd become so codependent on people doing things for them. But after a couple of weeks, they were fucking saying, oh, geez, I feel younger. I love being able to have this confidence again to do it myself. So, you know, you're not only helping yourself by stepping away from a codependent situation, you're helping that person regain their power. And obviously there's going to be friction because they're going to be like, why are you leaving me? Why are you not doing everything for me? Why are you not living my life for me? It's just easier that way. Do you know what I mean? And they are going to retaliate. But the wrong people are going to retaliate. But anyone who respects your needs is going to say, okay, I'm sorry if you feel that way. Let's do something to change this. You know, and that's the clear sign of who you have in your life, who you should or shouldn't have in your life. So this is where we have to start being really aware of how we're living. Are you living for you, or are you living for everybody else? Are you choosing yourself, or are you choosing everybody else? Because it's a fucking choice. You get to choose every day how you live your life. And are you choosing every day to suffer and literally reject and abandon yourself? Because this is what it is. You're literally like, I've done this so much, this people pleasing thing. You know what I mean? And like, somebody commented on one of my posts one time. It was like, people pleasing, but I like helping others. Yes, we like helping others. Of course we do. This is, we're givers. That's our purpose on this planet. We're here to give to others. But there's a big difference in actually helping somebody and living their life or being used by somebody. And that's what we have to decipher. Like, are you actually being taken advantage of? That's the question you need to ask yourself. Are you actually being respected? Because this is another thing. This still comes down to the feeling of unworthiness, because not only are we allowing ourselves to be disrespected by others, when we don't set a boundary or when we abandon ourselves, we're disrespecting ourselves. And that's it. And that's where it comes down to. Like, we have to choose ourselves. Like, I've said this so many times. How are you supposed to give if your cup is empty? And if you're over giving to the wrong people and abandoning yourself, your cup isn't just going to empty. It's going to fucking shatter. And, I'll give you an example. When I relapsed, I was doing pretty good, and I was on the spiritual journey. I was living through the law of attraction. I was in really good energy, but I had to walk away from friends, and it really, really, I suppose, fucked up my rejection and abandonment. It re-triggered it. And because of that, I became very vulnerable. And years ago, for a very long time, I had set boundaries with my dad because he has very negative energy. So I spent as little time as I had to there. And in doing so, we always had a great relationship. We clashed a little bit at times. But, with the boundaries set in place, everything was fine. But because I had to walk away from my group of friends, I became vulnerable and needy again. So therefore, I started to visit my dad a bit more. And then I started to overlive his life for him. I started to neglect my own needs for his. And guess what happened? I disappeared completely. And I spoke about my 8-year narcissistic relationship, right? Which literally stole all of my life force energy, and I disappeared. My personality, my whole ambition was gone. My brain was gone. It was just, I had no brain. And the same thing happened with that codependent dynamic with my dad, where I was doing everything for him. I was neglecting my own needs. And this literally fucked me up. My mental and physical health was deteriorating. I had rashes all over my face. My immune system was gone to shit. I was just so mentally and physically unwell that I was forced to walk away from the dynamic. I had to walk away. I just couldn't be around that anymore. So this is what we have to understand. If we're over giving to the wrong people, we're going to neglect ourselves. Our health is going to deteriorate. Our mental well-being is going to go to shit. So ask yourself that question. Are you feeling drained by overgiving to other people? Are you being disrespected and used by other people because of that overgiving? Are people taking advantage of you because you keep saying yes? And that's another thing. You know what I mean? We're afraid to say no. We're afraid to put ourselves first. We're afraid to make our own plans just in case somebody else needs us. How are you supposed to live your life like that? You know what I mean? Are you going to spend the rest of your life running around for everyone else and not living your own life? Because effectively, you're never going to have a life if you choose this. And that's it. You're never actually going to live. You're existing for somebody else. Your life isn't yours. Your life is theirs. So it's time to start putting in those boundaries. It's time to start choosing yourself. And I just go back to the Notebook scene. What do you want? Not what your parents want, not what he wants, and I'll add, not what society fucking wants. What the fuck do you want? This is your life and your choice. And every day you're getting up and choosing to live a false, fucked up life for somebody else. Like, it's not just really, like, it's sad. It breaks my heart to think about it, because I did that myself. But to actually watch people still do this, that they think they have no choice, that they think they can't say no, that they think they can't set a boundary, that they think that they have to disrespect themselves for the rest of their lives. You know, time really is short. We're not promised tomorrow. We're not. We've only really got today. So how are you choosing to live your life today? Are you neglecting your own needs? Are you living somebody else's life? Or are you living the life that you want? Are you living for you? Or are you abandoning yourself? And the way to come back to this is to love yourself and to respect yourself and to find that worth within yourself. And I'll keep coming back to this. The inner child is the biggest thing we work on. To set those boundaries. And that's it. You know, we lose our power when we're doing everything for everyone else. You know, we're choosing somebody else's life. You know, and you're so afraid to lose yourself, but you have lost yourself because you're not living for you. So how do you come back to that? You heal that wounding within. You give yourself that time. You spend that time on your own. You spend that time doing the things that you want. You say no. Make your own plans a priority. Make your life a priority. And say to somebody, sorry, I've got plans. Instead of saying, I'm going to put my plans on the back burner just in case I have to live your life instead. It just boggles me how people are so unevolved and living, just not living effectively. Not living. It's heartbreaking. Do you know what I mean? And like, you're wasting your whole fucking life sitting there waiting to be validated by people that don't give a shit about you. They're just fucking using you because you're a yes man. That's it. You're just literally, like, you know, it reminds me of that fucking Jim Carrey movie. Literally say yes to fucking everything. I'll do everything for you, but I won't say yes to myself. It's horrible. You know what I mean? Your health is fucked because of your life force is draining because people are taking advantage of your good-hearted nature. And then you walk away and they make you feel guilty. These are not your fucking people. It's time to start choosing yourself. Live your life. Stop wasting your time on the sidelines of your own life and living somebody else's. It's time to start playing your own game. It's time to start choosing you. So thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you'd like help on your journey, please book me for a discovery call today, and do nothing more than to help in your path.